We Presbyterians should be no strangers to the concept and importance of wisdom. Our very name, Presbyterian, derives from a Greek term that initially refers to older persons, elders, but which really refers to what age sometimes brings, wisdom born of experience. Today's passage from the Epistle of James addresses the nature of true wisdom. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. I can still remember it. I was a 10th grader, and my church youth group in San Antonio was visiting the local major synagogue in town, Temple Bethel, to learn about Judaism. We were in the sanctuary, and the rabbi was there to teach us and to answer our questions. When he asked what grades we were in, I volunteered that I was a high school sophomore. His response was as insightful as it was humorous, even if it was at my expense. "A wise fool," he said, carefully explaining that's what the word sophomore literally means. Sophos being the word in Greek for wisdom, and moros meaning fool, from which we derive the English word moron. So, sophomore, a wise fool. Though he doesn't use the term exactly, the writer of James implies exactly this when he talks about two kinds of wisdom. Here's what he says on the matter. He says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness, born of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be boastful and false to the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, devilish. For where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace." I wish he had used contrasting terms here, one for true wisdom and the other for what he refers to using terms such as envy, selfishness, ambition, and boastfulness, but he doesn't. He uses wisdom in both cases, letting his descriptions of the two kinds of wisdom guide us in our understanding. Still, even using the same term sophos to describe the two, his descriptors of each could not be more contrasting. False wisdom is at its base self-centered. The focus is on what's good for me, or at least what's good for my twisted notion of my self-interest. For what we often think of as our self-interest turns out in the long term to hurt us. We may gain some momentary advantage, but in the long run, we'll suffer. By contrast, true wisdom focuses on the good of others, on the good of the whole. It does not engage in selfish calculations, but works to secure the blessings for others. If he characterizes false wisdom as selfishness, envy, boastfulness, and ambition, he characterizes true wisdom, or wisdom from above, as peaceable, gentle, yielding when necessary, merciful, and utterly fair-minded. The former is sophomoric, intelligence placed in service of selfish ambition. The latter is wisdom personified, intelligence placed in service to higher goals and purposes. It's not hard to figure out where each one leads, especially in the life of the church. The former ends up tearing communities apart, setting neighbor against neighbor, believer against believer. True wisdom, by contrast, builds up the community by building up neighbor. Isn't that just true to our experience of things, though, both in the church and in the world? When we are focused on our own selfish interests, things have a way of becoming all mucked up. But when we focus on the common good, life for everyone tends to be better. Just think about the kinds of people in your experience who make the best leaders. We want to be around those who build us up, who encourage us, who teach us. Who wants to serve under a leader who constantly finds fault and who serves up a steady diet of criticism? It becomes pretty easy to discern which one possesses the kind of wisdom the writer of James lifts up. And by the way, practicing this kind of selfless wisdom turns out to be in our long-term interest after all. For who is really happier, the tyrant or the gentle person? Tomorrow, the writer of James extends this thinking to point out the folly of the wealthy in the church who oppress the poor. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.